going to give a little bit of context first for those of you who might not be as familiar with change activation as a concept and like what does that actually mean. And then I'm going to dive into the platform and show you how it works when you're driving change and transformation through Tigerhall. So the space that we focus on, change activation, is usually what comes after strategy and planning. So you would have strategy and planning done by consulting firm or internally or like shaping that up. But then when it comes to activation, this is where many transformation initiatives are still failing. And what we mean when we say activation is communications, which tends to be the biggest pain point and the biggest point of failure. You have capability building, avoiding those CEOs going out and saying, hey, we're an AI company now. And then people on the ground are still like, what's ChatGPT? So enabling the right capabilities to drive the change. And then culture, having the right culture in place to drive that transformation. So those are the three areas of activation and the three areas that the Tigerhall supports in. And the way that most companies do this before Tigerhall tends to be very email heavy, very SharePoint heavy, very top down, one size fits none, very little personalization, kind of the same message to everyone. And it tends to be across 17, 19, 30 different destinations with something happening in a town hall, something going on the intranet, there is some SharePoint site, then there's an email, then there's something else on the LMS, and employees are really struggling to make sense of all of this fragmented information overload. So usually compared to, it's like a Netflix series. If you see the second half of episode 8 before you've even seen the first half of episode 2, it's going to be really hard to make sense of the plot and the characters and what is actually happening. And then the feedback, very hard for many companies to get feedback on what is actually happening on the rollout and getting that close look at the ground and what is going on. So all of this lack of doing strong activation leads to the activation gap. So looking at the past 10 years, you've seen change activity increase from around 1 or 2 changes per year to today up to 15 changes per employee per year. So it's a lot of change impacting employees, and there's going to be more and more. And this is not going to slow down, as we all know. It's just going to be more and more frequent and more increased number of changes. And as those number of changes are increasing, we've seen over the same 10 years that organizational support for these changes have continued to drop. And with the way that companies are doing activation in the previous slide, with the emails, SharePoints, and all of this mess, it makes it even harder for them to keep up with. Now we have 15 changes happening, and then time sending 10 emails is 150 emails, and it's just really, really hard for them to keep up with what's going on. And that is leading to projects being derailed, budgets overrunning, lower productivity, and all of these issues that we're seeing in transformation initiatives. So in order to close that gap, there needs to be a shift in approach from how we approach change activation, and moving from this historical state where everything was very static and stale. It's this one size fits none kind of mass blasting out the same message to everyone. Very top down, so you do as I say or else kind of approach, and for change leaders not really having any visibility or insights into what is going on. So moving from this kind of state to what we call an activating function, where it's how do we create engaging content that actually engages people and makes them understand what is going on and them forward in the initiative, personalized and targeted, and having those two-way interactions. So it's not just one-way top-down, I speak to you, but rather how do we have that two-way interaction, the feedback across all stages of the transformation. And then making it real-time measurement, not having this once a year we find out what's actually going on, or every 90 days there's a quarterly survey or pulse where we can see, oh, things didn't really go well in Brazil, so let's see how we can deal with that now the next quarter. So those kind of slow turnaround times aren't really working. So this is the shift that is required. And when I speak to many change leaders, they want this on the right. They want to create engaging content. They want it to be personalized. They want it to be hyper-targeted. They want to have those two-way feedback loops. So many agree that this is the most critical piece, is to have good two-way feedback loops. And they definitely want to measure it. They definitely want to have that insight. They don't want to see just on SharePoint that how many people have viewed it or an open rate on an email. They want these insights, right? So people want to get to the right side to that activating function. but it's just a lot of work and very, very resource intensive. And if you're going to do all of this right now as change teams, it is a lot of work around how do you create content, having full agencies for that. I've spoken to companies that spend up to $2 million a year on just translating it and localizing it for global audiences. A lot of project management, coordination around getting that right content out. And then you have the live workshops, instructor training, and all of these things are really hard to scale. So if you have 100,000 employees, it's going to be really difficult to run around and do workshops and talk to all of them one by one. And the same with NPS pulse surveys, not sufficient, not providing real time. And then all of the work in managing this overload between the town halls, between the content production and putting it up in the SharePoint and all of this coming together. So it's something that change leaders want to do. They want to move to this activating function, but it's just really, really hard because of all of the work and how difficult it is to execute this at scale. So this is what we've built Tigerhall around, is to make this easier. And what I'll show you today are how can you create content much more easily and not having to engage expensive content creation agencies and translation services and all of these expensive groups and tools to just be able to create content. I'll show you how I can do that easily. And then localization, instead of doing translations, all of that project management manually, getting that to 33 global languages in an instant. Personalization, this is a very hot topic and I get asked about this a lot. How do we personalize to unique audiences? Again, something that before you would have to build manual email lists or setting up manual groups and teams and things like that just to send out a message. So how can we better personalize at scale? And then having those two-way feedback loops that are real time, not send an email to me next quarter, but rather how do we have that real time? And how can you much easier get progress, reports, data, sentiment, change adoption, all of those areas. So those are the areas that Tigerhall focuses on and what I'll show you today how it works. And the results we're seeing from customers who are using this is they report a much higher buy-in. So people get it faster, they are much more positive, they understand what it's about compared to this fragmented email, SharePoint, LMS type of setup. They report faster implementation, in large part thanks to the feedback loops, when they can see where are we going wrong, where do we need to pivot, what can we change, how can we address different audiences. It leads to much faster implementation of that change, and then saving a lot of time for the organizational change management teams. So change and transformation teams report saving up to 70 to 80% of their time on content creation, communications, gathering the feedback, doing the analysis, and all of those areas. So those are the results that we're seeing from the customers that we work with today. So with that, let's jump into the platform and see what this actually looks like in action, as the name of the session, Tigerhall in Action. And Tigerhall is available in 3 different formats. So you have the mobile app. This is something you can find on the App Store, Google Play, so mobile app that people can download, employees get access through SSO. Then you have it on the web app, so app.tigerhall.com, where people can log in, again, SSO, security, all of that around it. And then it's also integrated in Microsoft Teams very deeply. And that's to be able to deliver that reinforcement in the workflow, getting the right message to the right people at the right time where they are. So what I'll show today is I'll start on the web app. And then after that, we will dive into Microsoft Teams as well. So you will see how that integration looks like. Okay. So now we're in Tigerhall. So this is the web app. If I'm an employee, I see this, so without this left side panel. So I have a center here for all the initiatives that are impacting me, all the changes I'm going through, all the different transformations that I'm part of, and all my journeys and things that I have to do in those initiatives. If I'm an admin and managing this, I also have access to this admin portal. And this is where you do all the targeting, the content creation, the statistics and reporting, and all of these other settings. So this is the look and feel just when you land on the first page. You can connect with your colleagues, see their thoughts on it, have that social part of it. You see all the upcoming live events and everything that you need to do in your journey. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with creating content to show how easy it is to create content in Tigerhall, and then how you can build that out to these personalized change journeys, and then how that's delivered to them at the right time, in the right place, getting those two-way feedback loops, and then the reporting that you get out of it. So we're going to start with Creator Studio. And by the way, any questions that you have as you go along, feel free to put them in the chat. My team is also on the call, so they can answer any questions live in the chat too, so you get quick replies. So when it comes to content, you can upload anything that you have. If you have existing videos, recordings, podcasts, you can upload that here, or you can create from tools, from documents and PowerPoint decks and similar that you currently have. So if I want to create, I can go in here and create a podcast or a video. So let's say I want to create an AI podcast. Now, most of the time, when we look at how transformation is communicated, it tends to look something like this. You have a strategy deck. So in this case, is the circular economy transformation that Eastman is going through. This is a public deck, so nothing confidential. It's on their website. This is what most decks tend to look like. It's a lot of text. There's a message from the CEO. There's a mix of graphs and numbers. And most change teams are then tasked with, okay, this is our transformation. How do we get everyone in the company to be on board with this? And how do we communicate this? And sending this PDF to everyone is not going to generate the best results. So how can we take this and turn that into a short, bite-sized, personalized podcast? So what we do then is we head into uploading this. So I'll drag and drop this into Creator Studio. Then I want to give this a title. So let's say it's the Circular Economy Transformation for Operations Managers. And then here I want to give it a prompt. So this is where your skills in prompt engineering will come in handy. And this is where you tell it exactly what you want this to do. So I can say, it's really up to your creativity, what you want to input here. But things like the kind of tone that you want, how do you want to make it relevant to the different audiences, those are things that you insert here. And then you can select the different personas. And this is where you can select people from a specific audience. So we'll go into how you set up audiences and groups later. Right now you have the examples here, expert, intermediate, beginner, but this could also be your middle managers or operations managers or marketing or C-suite, like any type of audience you set up. So you can bring that in here. Let's say we want one expert, one beginner, and then let's turn this into a podcast. So the way that you input those prompts is where you can decide then the tone. You can also insert points, for example, talk about this, don't talk about that. And that initial prompt that I put in there, that's our first prompt. But in the next step, you can format and shape it in any which way you like. So the point here is that you're in full control, because we know that if you're using a ChatGPT, for example, something where you don't really have control of the output, that's not usually what enterprises like when they don't have control. Enterprises like having control, and here you have full control. So you even see exactly what they're saying before it goes out. So legal and PR don't have to worry about like, oh, is this something going to be generated that we have no idea what is coming out on the other side? No, you can listen to it, you see the transcript, and you can shape it exactly as you like. So this process usually takes about a minute or so, and then we'll get into the actual transcript, selecting voices in this step. So now you see the first prompt I inputted here, which is the first basic, summarize the key points, and this is the podcast that came out. So here you can also select your speaker, so your speaker voice that you would like. We also support voice cloning, so you can actually have your CEO, CFO, like anyone's voices cloned and use it here. So we work with several teams who have, like they're chasing their CEO every month for like reporting updates, and they want to record something with her or him, and that's something that we can clone, and then you can have the CEO delivering a personalized message to everyone in your organization.
Hi, my name is Rebecca, and I'm one of the voices you can use in the Studio Creator.
Hi, my name is Stefan, and I'm one of the voices you can use in the Studio Creator.
So here you can then select different voices, and it's easy to add in your leaders here as well. So that saves a lot of time. And then here you see exactly what they're saying. So anything that you want to change, you can do so. Let's generate this first one and see what we think about that. And this is all based on that PDF that I uploaded. And you can upload 500 pages, 1,000 pages, the size of the document doesn't matter. You can upload multiple documents as well. So now I only uploaded one, but you can add in like up to as many documents as you like, and it will summarize all of it.
Hey everyone, I just came back from Eastman's strategic overview presentation, and I've got some exciting updates to share that I think will really impact our operations.
Oh, great timing. I've been hearing a lot about their circular economy initiatives. What are the main takeaways for us ops managers?
Well, first off, they're making huge strides in.
So that's the first 2-minute podcast that I put out from that long strategy deck, and that's then curated for operations managers. So you see, this is 2 minutes, 40 seconds, and you can go in here and change. Let's say I want to change from Eastman to like Demo Corps. And then it will pick up exactly that word. So if you have certain words that you wanted to say or clarify, just add that in to the transcript directly. And then now he will say Demo Corp instead of Eastman.
Hey everyone, I just came back from DemoCorp's strategic overview presentation, and I've got some exciting.
And then you can work with it here as much as you like. So maybe you want to say like, make it funnier and more casual, but not inappropriate. You can also add in like Australian, like add an Australian accent if you want to send this to Australia, and similar. And then whatever you put in the prompt, they will revise the transcript, and then you can work with this as much as you like until you're happy with the podcast. Let's see if it has any humor in this. And now you see it pop to 3 minutes as well. So this is the more casual version of it.
Hey folks, just got back from Eastman's strategy presentation, and man, my head is spinning with all this circular economy stuff, but in a good way. Anyone else need a coffee before we dive in?
Alas, asterisk. Let me guess, another corporate presentation about saving the planet while making money? Hit me with it.
Actually, this one's pretty cool.
So that's how you can work with it as much as you like. And as mentioned, you're in full control. So anything you want to change, words you want to take out, etc., very easy to do that. Now, let's say you're happy with it. You get a generated preamble here. You can set the title, and then you select who is this from. So maybe this is from Jason White, and then you tag it to the circular economy transformation. So you group your initiatives. So you can have like as much as 1,000, 10,000 initiatives. Most of our customers have anywhere between 100 to 700 initiatives going on at the same time. And then you tag this to what particular initiative. And sometimes it's 2 initiatives, right? So maybe this is circular economy transformation, but also driving an ESG-centric mission. You tag it to both of those initiatives, so people who are involved in those both get it. Set a release date. Release this now, upload a quick image. And then here you can select the groups that can see this. So maybe this is for my Change Champions operations managers, for example, and for that Change Champion network. Maybe it's for Jason's marketing team in Australia. Maybe it's for my hourly operations manager. So you can decide the audience here by just selecting them. And we'll go into later exactly how we select an audience. So now you have it here. You can play it around if you like to.
Hey folks, just got.
See that is the right one, and then you publish it. So that's how you easily create a podcast from a long PowerPoint or PDF document. And again, having your leaders' voices, anything you wanted to say takes a couple of minutes. So this is something you can do. You can also do this with video. So the other one we didn't show was video, where you can have a teleprompter, send it to a leader to record, and generate it in the same way. So this makes it a lot easier to create content. And when we look at the data, what people engage the most with, podcast is always in the lead, especially these short bite-sized audio files. People love listening to podcasts when they're out walking, driving to the office. So very easy to consume as opposed to sending them that 150-page strategy document. So now let's say we want to create a change journey with this. So we want to create a new, what we call trails. And maybe here you want to do something around the circular economy transformation initiative for your operations managers. So then we go in here, we can select, this was the podcast we just created. So you select the different pieces, maybe you want to something from your CEO, technology launches, SOP best practices. You can select any content that you want to include, and you can sort by leader, what we call Thinkfluencer, and then you have this here. And then maybe you want the message from the CEO to be the first one in the journey, then you move it up. Maybe the SOP should be the last one, technology launches the second one. So this is how you just drag and drop to create the journeys. Now we have a change journey, and here you then input, this might be circular economy transformation for operations managers, an overview. Put in any text, and then again tag it to the right initiative, and you can again select which audience. Maybe this is for the operations managers. Let's bring in a quick image. And that's how you set up a change journey. So you can set up these infinite number of change journeys for different audiences. You can have the same journey for different audiences. You can have different journeys for different audiences. So this is a lot of flexibility. And then you can review it. So this is your trail. And then you create it. And now when you have these journeys, what you can do is, if you've created a journey for an audience, they will see that when they're in the platform, but you can also push this to them. So proactively pushing it out. So we call that assign, and assigning this trail. So here you would then see that this is the trail I created. Maybe we want something else from that. See any other trails we have? Maybe the key success indicator. So anything that you want to push out as communications, you can include here. And again, you can get this in order. So maybe you want them to attend this live event first before they go into the trail. And this can be their journey. And then you select, who do you want this to? So I'm going to select myself so that I receive it. And then here is all your groups that you've set up. So maybe you want this to go to your hourly operations managers and your change champions in region West, for example. These are the two that you want to push this communication to. You just press these two, select them, and then you go next. And then you probably want to tell them, like, why are they receiving this instead of just sending them things. So why are they receiving it? So this could be, and then you can also set a due date. So this lets them know what to prioritize, when to consume it, and they will also get automated reminders up until this due date. So if you have a big launch, you have an ERP system going live on 1st of March, you probably want everyone to consume that before 1st of March. And then you can just set it up here, 28th of February. This is the due date, and then they will automatically get reinforcement and reminders and everything up until this date. So you don't have to run around and chasing people. And you will also have always full overview of where are people at, who has done what, where are they at in this journey. And then telling them the goals, because the why is always important. So we always want to include the why. So this could be, so this tells them, why is this interesting to them? Why should they consume it? And then we create that. And now this gets pushed to them within Microsoft Teams. They get a notification, they get a DM, and they get notified that, hey, there's a new journey for you to jump on. And they know exactly why they should do it. They know what they should do, in what order, and by when they have to do it. So I'll show you that in a bit. But before we dive in and switch to the user side and their experience of it, I want to show here how you set up these audiences, because this is a very big part of the personalization and how you can personalize this to an infinite number of audiences in your organization. So there are two ways to create groups. So you have the standard group, which is basically putting people in a group. This is great for like champion networks or like, say, like Change Champions 2025. And you know exactly who are the people that you want to put in here. That's when you use a standard group. So if you have a list of them, you can drag and drop it here, or you can select manually. So maybe we want to have Charles. We want to have Edward and Elizabeth. So this is good for smaller groups. If it's a static audience that doesn't change much, maybe like C-suite or an implementation team or something that you know wouldn't change. So that's how you create a static group. Now what's more interesting is the dynamic groups. So this is where you really can leverage any and all data that you have. And the way this works is, so maybe I want to set like our hourly operations managers and create an audience for hourly operations managers. And this is where you can add in unlimited number of conditions. So you connect this with your HRS, takes 15 minutes once you know who the right person is on your side to authorize it. Connect it with a HRS, and then you get all of these conditions. And you can also connect it with any other systems. We have customers have connected to their CRM, for example, to see like when a seller is adding a deal or different sales performance, different pipeline sizes. We have some that are just like Excel sheets of like who likes chocolate, who likes mango, even if that's the Excel sheet, you can add that in. So any data source that you have is easy to connect to. And we connect with Fivetran, which connects with most data pools, and also Snowflake. So if you have one of those instances, it's super easy to get all of your data into here. And you would have some type of data lake that we can connect to. So here you can select. So let's say I want to start with people who are in, maybe I want to talk to people in Australia, for example. Select the country. And then I don't want to talk to people who are new. I don't want the people who have joined recently. So here I select the employee start date. And that employee start date should be before 1st of July. So no one who joined in the last half a year. Like I want to communicate to people who are a little bit more in the organization. And then I want to reach people who report to a certain person. So I want anyone who reports to Charles. And I want people who are up to 3 levels below Charles, not the more junior, but like I want Charles direct reports 3 levels below. And then maybe we said hourly, right? So I also want to know like the employee type. So maybe I want the hourly workers here. And then maybe like department name should contain operations. Or maybe even like start with operations. Maybe there's something operational. So now I've set up the criteria here, and you can combine this in infinite. You also add alternative conditions. So anyone who meets all of these criteria or is just based in Denmark. So now anyone in this audience is someone who is either in Australia, joined before 1st of July, is 3 levels below Charles, is an hourly employee in something that's to do with operations, or is just someone in Denmark. So this is how you set up the audiences. And the reason they're dynamic is when anything of this changes, so someone starts reporting to Charles, or someone becomes an hourly employee, or someone joins this operational department, then they will automatically be added. Once they meet all of these criteria, they will then be added to the audience. So that means that when you have workflow activity, for example, like anyone who started the performance module in our new ERP, those are criteria you can also add in. So workflow activity, stage of transformation, sentiment. So when someone moves from negative to positive sentiment, to put it simply, then they can join this dynamic group once they are positive on the sentiment. So everything moves automatically, and you never have to change people between groups. It's all dynamic. So I can save these conditions. Filled out. And then once I've saved them, I decide here, how often does this refresh? So you can refresh this daily. So every day there are some changes in your audiences, and that personalization is updated daily, or even hourly every 6 hours. Or maybe you want it weekly on Monday. Every Monday there should be anyone that has a change in audience, they should get your communications done. But let's say we want this hourly, which means it's real time all the time. So now I confirm and create. And now I have this dynamic group. Now I don't have anyone who matched all of these criteria. So otherwise you would see all the users here. So that's how you set up the groups for personalization. And that personalization is then going into when you create content, how you communicate, and all of that in the platform. So now let's go back to the assignment, and this one that we sent out, Introduction to the Circular Economy, to our change champions, and see how does this come out to an employee. So I'm now going to jump into Microsoft Teams, and what you see here is that everything that I just showed, you also have access to it in Microsoft Teams. So you can go in without leaving Microsoft Teams, you can create content, you can upload it, you can create these targeting groups. The employees can go in here and see their feed, their different initiatives, their journeys. So everything is here, as well as on the web apps. It's really up to people's preferences. And you can also, like, let's say you have a smaller initiative, maybe it's like 500 people, you don't want this for everyone. The Teams integration allows you to set it up for exactly the people that you want to set it up for. So it doesn't have to be an all or nothing approach. You can do this for specific targeted initiatives too. So if I'm this person that has now gotten this notification, then I have my chats here. And this is where I have all my chats, all my channels, and I here have a Tigerhall DM bot. So now I just got this assignment. So we'll go straight into my DMs. And here I can press view and get directly to the assignment. And I also get this pop-up, which is also a notification in my activity center that says you have a new assignment, and then I can just go there. And this gives people an overview. So for employees to see what exactly do I need to do? They don't need to chase around SharePoint sites for emails or go everywhere. They have all the journeys here. They have the due dates. They know how to prioritize. They can see what is active, what is completed, what is already expired. So they have a good overview here. And this is something we get a lot of feedback from employees on, that they love that this is so much simpler than having it in 15 different places and not really knowing where to go when. And this you can also link out to if you have something in a third source, for example, that can also be part of a trail. So now I go to my journey. So this is where I'm at for the circular economy transformation. So let's see how everything that we did, how that turns out here. So I might start with a video.
To do what's comfortable for them. You are going to have people on your team, hopefully, who are comfortable with ambiguity. Hey, or products.
So this might be the first video, which is a message from the CEO, from the podcast. This is the one we just created.
Inc.'s latest investor report. Hey there, operations managers. I hope you're all doing well out there in the field. I've got some interesting updates from Democorp Inc.'s latest investor report.
So that's how the podcast came out. And you can listen to this on mobile, in Teams, on web, and it all syncs. So if you listen on your phone when you're on the way to work, then you can continue it when you arrive and you're in front of Teams. So and this is 3 minutes. So what you see here is everything is bite-sized. So that's really a key to it, is making it bite-sized. Then the reads are also good summaries and bullet points of everything that we've been going through. And across all of these
investor report that I think you'll want to hear about.
So this one, for example, which was that 3-minute podcast that we created in the Creator Studio, everything is instantly available in 33 different languages. So you don't have to do anything on translation or localization. The user themselves, they can choose here. I can change my preferred language. If I set this to Japanese, then everything will be in Japanese. So let's go in here. This is the one we created from the PowerPoint, and we want to hear this in Japanese. If there's anyone Japanese speaking in the audience, please let me know. And then you can also read it. So anything that you can listen to on Tigerhall, you can also read. And anything that you read, you can also listen to. So let's say we want the transcript here in Greek and we want to hear it in Japanese.
重要な更新は、企業レベルでの同社のスタンスを理解するためのものです。非常に厳しい経済環境に直面しているにもかかわらず、同社は積極的な成長戦略へのコミットメントを堅持しています。この戦略
So then everything is in audio in Japanese. So you can literally take that English PowerPoint deck, upload it, and people can listen to it in Japanese. And it takes 2 minutes to upload and do. And then the same with videos. You have subtitles.
Products today, and then build new businesses from scratch to meet those needs. When I got to 3M 3 years ago, I already knew that we needed to get into carbon capture. And we quickly located a good lead customer, but now I needed to quickly put together.
So everything has subtitles right away. And this goes also for if you upload a town hall recording or a Teams recording, a meeting, or like any video that you have, if you upload that onto Tigerhall, it will also be instant subtitles in 33 languages without having to do anything. So, and you have the same languages available here, not the audio, because the lip sync comes out really weirdly, even though we can do it. It's not a great user experience to have lip sync. But this is where you
a team that included R&D scientists, product developers, applicants.
And then you have the same for anything written. So anything you publish as a written document, again, change language, super easy to do, and you can also listen to it. So if I'm not a reader, I can just go in and listen to this in my preferred language. So you might have uploaded this as English text, but I can say I want to read it in Tagalog and I want to listen to it in maybe Hindi. And now I can read it in Tagalog and then listen.
दायरा और उद्देश्य इस सॉप का उद्देश्य कंपनी की सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी सी पहल को चलाने वाली प्रक्रियाओं को प्रभावी ढंग से लागू करने और प्रबंधित करने के लिए संचालन प्रबंधकों के लिए एक
So that's how you get all the different languages. So reading to listening, listening to reading, all different languages. So this gives the user the choice. How do they want to consume the information? So the communications, capability building, it doesn't have to be all in English written, but someone can listen to it in Japanese if that's the preference. So that's how it looks like for the employees, and easy to switch here between in the playlist. Now, if we look at the two-way feedback loops, this is another important part, is that the two-way feedback loops here are instant and social. So people can see, they can submit their questions here, anything they want to ask about this particular piece. People can then react to it. People can reply to it. So we have some that go in here and they would like reply to the pieces and reply to the questions, and reply to the questions and share answers and so on. This is a good way to keep a track of what are people saying, what are their questions, what are they wondering, and you do get reports and sentiment on all of this too. So some where it's a smaller initiative, smaller group, you can go in and manually reply to people, but the more common way of using this is to see at an aggregate, okay, what do people care about across different groups, what are the different themes we're seeing, and then you can put out targeted communications to the people that show a specific type of sentiment. So you will see that some people are super excited, super engaged, and very positive. Then you want to put out a different message to them than maybe the ones who are very concerned about job security, for example, that might require a different type of addressing. So all the comments and reactions here also go into that audience segmentation that I shared and how you can curate different audiences. So sentiment is something you can add in as a criteria. And then you can say sentiment champion, sentiment detractor, sentiment positive, negative, depending on what it looks like for your organization. And that's something that we do for our customers as well, is providing more in-depth analysis of sentiment and recommendations on how to address it with different audiences. So all of this is here, so very easy to reply. And you have this across all of the different pieces. So that's how people respond to it while they're seeing it.
Climate.
And you have this across all the different pieces. So that gives good two-way feedback loops, good idea of people's sentiments and understanding, and also a way for people to jump in and answer each other and have that sense of community and connection as they're consuming the content as well. So that's how they experience it. So they get this integrated in their chats. So where we were here, so this is where they have the DM. Then you can also add it to channels. So this is another good part about the integration, is that you can add the resources to the right places in the different channels. So let's say here are my field operations managers under operational excellence. Every time that you create something and send it out to that audience, it will be integrated to the channel so that they will see it popping up here. So again, directly in their workflow where they are, you don't have to send them to 17 different destinations. They can react to it here. And the way that you set this up is by adding a tab here. You add in Tigerhall, and then here you can select the different initiatives. So let's say here we had the ESG one, for example, and what the different initiatives that, depending on how you're calling it. Then I add this as a tab, and I get all the resources, all the communications, all the capability building around that ESG initiative that I'm trying to drive with my field operations managers, and I add it to directly where they're chatting and where they're working. And now it's called Tigerhall topics here, but you can rename this. So let's say you want to call this ESG resources or capability or anything you want to name it. You name it here, and then here they would have that within their channel. So here they have their posts, their files, all their normal workings within Microsoft Teams. Here I called it transformation resources, for example, and then people can just tap in here. And if you want to see like, oh, ESG in the manufacturing space, what is this? They can then open it here. They can read if they want to. They can listen to it.
Ability in the manufacturing space.
And then they can consume it directly within the channel. So they don't even have to leave the channel and go to any other destinations. You can have all of it delivered directly within here as well. And the same with the comments. So this means field operations managers working in this channel, then they see something popping up under ESG resources. They go in here, 13 minutes consume it, and they can add a comment here and just directly interact with it. So it becomes a very natural part of their day-to-day in the way that they work, the way they collaborate, the way that they share information. So that's how you can add it into any type of channels that you have here. So you have the channel integration, you have the DM bot where they get direct messages, and then it's also integrated in the activity. So now I have a lot of like following notifications here. We would also get things like if there's something that is an announcement that you're making on the feed, for example. And then you see all the new people that are following you here. So again, anything that you get on activity, you stay within the activity center, so you don't have to go anywhere else. Everything is directly here in activity. So that is the Teams integration, those three places. Now let's stay in Teams and let's see the type of reporting that you get out of this. What can you actually see that is happening across your initiatives? So there are two ways to get reporting. You have statistics, which is the basic dashboard that everyone gets. And then you have the report builder where you can go really deep and granular on all types of data and get very specific reports. So if I start with statistics here, then I can see across all my users. And then this is where it gets very powerful, where you can select the different groups. So maybe I want to see my hourly operations managers. What do they do last month? And then I get exactly the data from hourly operations managers last month, what they did. And the data that I get is the number of active users, so time spent, these kind of metrics, how much content they consumed. Let's take these out so we get some leaderboards. So you get leaderboards of like who has been really engaged and who hasn't. This is very useful because this tells you who are your influencers within your organization, who are the champions that can actually influence others. So if we look here, we can then see that, oh, Simon, Aliza, Andrea, Dutta, these are the ones that people enjoy listening to or are influenced by. And then that means that you can then double down on having them deliver change communications and messaging as well. And what some have even done is like they see that, oh, like Jeremy's very popular. Let's clone Jeremy's voice and make his voice in the podcast that goes out to these operations manager. So this can also be your data and information for whose voice you want to clone and have that be popping up in podcast. So that makes it much more effective. And of course, it saves a lot of Jeremy's time as opposed to having to do that. So that's something you can do with your change champions. And then this gives you an idea of the type of topics they're interested in, like do they consume AI, the personal productivity, the different initiatives, innovation, like what comes up here. So you can see what initiatives are people actually interested in. Is it the circular economy? Do they care about something else? That's what you get access to here. Popular content pieces, how much time are people spending on the various content that you're putting out? And then you have full assignment statistics. So all of those journeys that we created, creating journeys and assigning it to different groups, you see exactly their reactions and where they're at in the journey. So no more not knowing who has consumed it or just how many views. You can see her Did they give it a thumbs up, thumbs down? How many users started? How many completed? What is the average completion rate? So you have all of this data here across all your assignments. And you can also filter this on groups. So maybe you just want to see what are my hourly operations managers doing, for example. And then you see here across the group, what are they doing on the Circular Transformation Initiative or DEI journey? So that's where you have full statistics, and also at individual user level. So maybe you want to go in and see, what is John doing? Is John really on board? Has he done this? You can actually go in and see the number of trails that he's on. So the number of like change impact analysis in many ways, because you can see how much do they have on at the moment, how many journeys do they have on, and how many initiatives are they involved in. So this gives you visibility at a user level, and you have the same at a group level in terms of what's their change load, so that you can manage change fatigue in these areas too. And then the same statistics here. And all of this data you can export. So if you want to export it, put it into another file, work with it somewhere, very easy to do. And you can just bring it out in a CSV file. So you have full visibility on everything that is happening. Then if you want to go even more granular, you have something here called the report builder. So this is where you can build specific reports for a specific purpose that you might have. So let's say we want to see the feedback on the SOP document that we put out around the Circular Transformation Initiative. Then let's say SOP feedback on circular economy. And then here you have some templates that you can use, which makes it easy to build a report. And for the feedback, right, we want to know the feedback on this SOP. Then let's select the user comments, most relevant for this. We want to see what people are thinking. Then here you select what is the feedback I want to know, what time period. So let's say I want to see what people thought last month. So maybe you want to pull this out once a month and see exactly what was the summary. And then you can select, do you want this from on content or in the feed? And then here you select, what is the content piece I want feedback on? So let's bring in the SOP. So this is the feedback. And then you can add in more pieces here. Maybe you also want to know what they thought of this one, what they thought of the explainable AI, for example. So you can add in any pieces that you like. So now we're going to get the comments on this one. Here you can select the audience. So maybe you don't care what everyone says. You just want to know, what did my hourly operations managers say about the new SOP best practices? What did they think about it? So then you can specify that here. So I don't want to know what all users in the organization said about this piece. I just want to know about my hourly operations managers. And then you select them. So now the report that you're building is one where you're going to get the comments, the feedback on everything around the SOP best practices from your hourly operations managers. So those are the criteria we've made. And then we need one with a user. And then you get to here where you can select how you want your report to look like. So maybe you don't care about the Tigerhall user ID or the location, for example, and then the report will adjust automatically. So now you see you'll get the name, you'll get the comment detail. This is a dummy example just to show you what the report would look like. And then you click next, and you can see you're getting a report on user comments, on SOP best practices from these two groups, the hourly operations managers and the change champions. And these are the columns in your report. And then you export this. So you press export, and then you will receive an email with a download link where you can go in and download this report. And when that arrives to your email, it takes about a minute or so. Then the report that you're getting will look something like this. So you will have everyone's name, their email addresses, and then all the comment details. And then you will know, where did they comment? Was it a comment original, or was it a reply? And then the link to that content piece as well. So this is where you can then see, like, oh, what do people think? We ask about how we measure the resource recovery, what happens if a supplier doesn't meet the sustainable criteria. This is their feedback. Now, what we do is we get all of this data and we put this into a sentiment analysis for our customers. So you get a report This is currently in Smartsheets, and we're going to bring this into Tigerhall in just a few months' time. So this is something that we're building at the moment and that we're working on building out. So that means that in a few months, when you're here, one, you're going to be able to visualize the reports that you're creating here. So instead of getting them as an Excel sheet, you're going to be able to visualize them. And two, the sentiment analysis that we currently create for our customers is also going to be moved in here. So then you have sentiment and visualization of that all in one place. So that's something that is coming out in Q2 that we're very excited about, because the sentiment analysis that we're currently creating for customers then helps them to further build audiences, most of all. So you can build audiences based off of that data, and then creating content based on the sentiment and answer these questions. Because if you have a theme that is like, okay, it's clear, but like, how do we measure it? That's a clear theme that you can then create the next journey around to communicate with them. So, so that's how it works, and that's what we're currently doing on the back end. That will be in the portal in a few months. So that's the full circle of it, how you create content very easily, drag and drop your PDF, PowerPoint documents, then you build them into trails called change journeys, get that to very specific groups, high level of audience targeting, and then you get the two-way feedback loops. They can share their thoughts, their questions, and then you get reporting on all of this, both from a statistics and deeper report builder level, as well as sentiment analysis. So that's in a nutshell what Tigerhall does. And there are some other things that I didn't go through today, but if any of you would like a more in-depth demo going through specifics and showing more in-depth on any of these areas, we are more than happy to set up some more time and do that with you. So I'm going to stop there and ask if there are any questions that I can answer. Burton, is there anything that is in the chat or anyone who want to ask any questions?
The only chat we didn't get to yet was from Lisa, which is how do you encourage feedback? And then anyone else who has questions, please put them in the chat.
That's a good question. So encouraging feedback, there are a few parts to it. So many times it does come down to culture. Like if you have a culture that is currently like, don't speak up, we don't want to hear what you say, like that's the way leaders are behaving, that is usually where we would start. So we would have leaders put out very raw, authentic content that encourages people to comment. So that is something that usually works. And when you have leaders also telling, I want to know what you think, because most people think that nobody cares and nobody cares about their opinion. So just by telling them that we care about your opinion and we want to know what you think and do put your questions in the comments, that already brings it up like 5-6x to what you had before. So that's one way. And then the second thing is you have the change champions doing it. This is also very successful. So you set up these groups. We have one customer with like 250 change champions. And this is an organization with 15,000 employees. So these 250 have it a little bit as their job to go in and comment and reply and be active in the chat. And that then starts the ball rolling. So you just need to set the culture that this is what we want and this is what is acceptable. And if you select those change champions well and nudge them to go in and tell them this is part of your job to go in and comment and ask, that's something that works really well. So change champion networks, leaders coming up with content, and then usually the flywheel starts from there. So usually it encourages just that initial push. And once you've made that initial push, it gets a lot easier over time as people get used to it. And then just the interface helps, the fact that people are used to that kind of commenting and replying and reactions. And like that's how they interact on social platforms. So they get warmed up to it and used to it pretty quickly. And that's a really good question. Thank you, Lisa.
Another question that Douglas just put in, he said, this is a system admin view. Can we also see the end user view as an example? And would the customer need an internal system admin to further govern/sustain the efforts?
So this is the end user view. So take away the admin portal on this side. If you just remove this out of the view, this is the end user view. So this is what the end user would see. So they have access to all of this. They see their initiatives, they see the journey, they see everything that they're involved in. And then the same, everything that I shared when they go to their trails, for example, if they have this in the chat. So when they go to their assignments, those playlists they're shared, that's the end user view. So when they go through here, this is what the employees see, and they have this on their mobile phones as well, and all of these
They're
content.
not backing.
So this is the playlist they have, the comments, this is the user view. So everything that is content, two-way feedback loops, comments, all of this is what the end users, the employees are seeing. And what was the second part of that question, Brittany?
Yeah, would you need an internal system admin to further govern / sustain the efforts on the platform?
So usually what we see, the teams that we work with tend to be anywhere between 3 to 5 people in terms of the entire change team. So all like change managers, so 3 to 5 people in a change and transformation team. And usually out of those 3 to 5, there are 1 or 2 people that actively work on Tigerhall. And for them, it tends to be 40 to 50% of their time. So some people have one full-time, like we have one customer with 225,000 employees. They actually have a full-time person in their change team just dedicated to Tigerhall, but that's 225,000 employees. It's very large scale. They're doing everything on the platform, and that's one full-time headcount. For most others, I would say team size 3 to 5, and a couple of people spending 30 to 50% of their time. That's usually what we're seeing. But then what you can also do is you can set different access levels and have people, other people than the change team come in as well. So what's very effective is you can create a role. You can create a role for change champions and have them be able to go in, for example, and create content. So they can upload content, they can create assignments for their teams. So you can also decentralize it like that and have other leaders being involved. So we see that being about 50-50, about half have this with their central change and transformation team, and the other half have it a bit decentralized with different business unit leaders too.
Perfect. And then we have one fun question. The audience wants to know, can you tell us where the Tigerhall name came from?
Love that question. Always comes up. So Tigerhall is, tiger is symbolizing, in Asian culture, symbolizing overcoming obstacles in life and achieving strength. So we're headquartered in Singapore. That's where I founded the company 6 years ago. And then we've grown globally since there. But tiger is Asian animal, so symbolizes our Asian roots. And also that's symbolizing overcoming obstacles and achieve strength. And then hall is a place where you meet with people to connect. So it symbolizes that connectivity. We're doing this together. It's not one way top down. It's all of us coming together as a connected unit. So that's those two put together became Tigerhall. And then frankly, I thought it sounded pretty cool because who doesn't want to be a tiger? And then it's something that everyone can pronounce. So that's also important. So that's how the name came about. But I did have 600 options before I landed on Tigerhall eventually.